We're back here on our program, The Platform, and today we are speaking with Bishop Ross Davis and his wife about his pastoral anniversary, and we are delighted that they both came. We were talking about the phenomenal growth of your church on Carmichael Road there, and there have been a number of churches that came out, grew as a result of that ministry. Do you superintend these churches or what?
No, we have a fellowship that's called BANAC, Bahamas Network of New Apostolic Churches. That came out, that was created after when we needed a body to be a part of. And some of those churches are a part of that body. Not all of them are, but some of them are. And then we have other churches who we did not start. They are a part, yeah. So not all of them we superintend.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you've led, of course, the Bahamas Christian Council.
Certainly. Yes.
And I'm sure you had quite an experience there, leading people from different denominations, and speak to that.
At that time, we spoke only when we had the voice of all of the churches. And so it was my understanding as president that I would speak for all of the churches. So when there was an issue, we called all of them together and we spoke. When we couldn't agree together, we said nothing, or we allowed each group to speak, you see? So, because it was not my council, it was the Bahamas Christian Council. Those were good days, like they are now. Then we had a good support of the former presidents. So I had all of their shoulders on which I could lean. And we had good relationship with the government. So it was a good time, I would say. It was new for me, and I was young to begin to be that part of it, but we had a lot of churches that joined and the rest of it, but they had to join their group. They couldn't join as an individual church, you see? The Baptists came in as a group. The Assemblies came in as a group. And any other denomination was as a group. Now each church may be a member.
I see. You know, as we talk about your 45th year pastoring a church, and we talked about the churches that evolved or came out of your ministry, I want to talk about the impact of Golden Gates Assembly on the community and on the country generally.
Okay.
Because you're called to make disciples, aren't you?
Certainly.
Let's speak to that.
Okay, what I see as an impact would be when the members go out and make a difference. So it was never what I could say or who I am, but it was as I see them in their role, and that's what I looked for. I looked among the customs department, and when there was a custom officer who was a part of the church, I looked to see what is he doing there. Those who were police officers or other areas, you know, like we had a goodly number of them working as permanent secretaries. I expected them to do well there, you know, because I would know their boss. And when I would meet them, their boss would either say yeah or nay. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
I like to hear the good report.
That is when you know the church is effective.
Yeah, in the marketplace or on the car, you know, like we have a good guy working around here, and when he comes, he talks with Mr. Jones. I love that.
Yes.
You know.
You know, he told me to make sure you take Bishop Davis to see some of my work.
Yes.
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 So he's proud of his church and his pastor. Eh?
Yeah, and he want me to see it
Yes.
because he knows how we feel about one another. And we talk as a men's group. That's when we meet as a men's group. We talk about what are we doing to not only make money, but to make a difference where we are.
That is when you know ministry is effective.
Right, right.
And women, you have a women's ministry there as
Yes,
well,
we do.
which must be very effective too, eh?
Yes,
Because I like to say that the church operates out of the feminine sometimes, insofar as the majority of your members might be women.
The majority of our members are women.
Yes. Yeah.
In fact, we were talking about the same thing basically. And Sunday morning, would you believe it? One of our leaders, he took the time to count the male and count the female, and then leaned over to me and say, "This is the number of women. This is the number of men." You know what I mean? Because we were saying the day before on Saturday that the men don't like to come to church. You see, and then somebody was saying, "This is why." You know, I won't get into why, but when he showed me the number, I said, "You got it right. You got a point there." You know?
The church is more than the leader. The church is more than the pastor.
Oh, yeah.
Or the bishop.
Right.
The church is the body.
It's not meant to be
whole, right?
It's not meant to be the pastor. You know, each member in the church is given gifts, and those gifts are for the whole body.
For the body of Christ.
Yeah, and so as good as the pastor may be, if the other part of the body isn't functioning, you know, it's like you this is a body, and I got a head, but if the head is doing its best, but there's no movement in the leg, what's going to happen?
But Bishop Davis, leadership is extremely important in any church, in any ministry. Because if your leadership is weak, then you would see a weak church. There have been pastors who have scattered the sheep, so to speak. You are a strong leader, and you've been able to keep your church together. You kept it growing. You sent people out to do evangelistic work. So evangelism is a strong part of your ministry, isn't it?
Yeah, but I want to go a little further and say that the pastor may be good, but those people got to be good too. And sometimes the pastor is really good, but the people, you know, when I say the people, the gifts is now operating. And I know pastors, and you know pastors who burn themselves out, as it were. But those people complain, or whatever. They did not act as they ought to, and as a result, that's why the work went on as it is. And of course, all of us know that if every member in the church would work, what a mammoth church that would be.
Yeah, but people have to be led, though.
Yeah. Some people are being led, but they're stubborn. You know, and I know, we know how behemoths go. This is we always say. And I know you got to teach them and the rest of it. But we have, the other thing is this. When you read the Bible, you read something here, and when you turn the page over and you see another story, it might take 30 years to get from that one page to the other. You see, so there are some things that are taking long, but it'll happen, you know. I believe that what you're asking for, and what all of us are asking for, and that is for the church to be something that's vibrant, I believe it's going to happen. But I think there's some things that's taken a while to happen. You know, it's like the Reformation. You know how long that took to happen? And now that it has happened, almost every new revelation is taking either 30 years or just about that to come to pass.
I'm forced to ask you about the impact of church leadership in the country today, because there are some people who are persuaded that some church leaders have lost their vibrancy, they've lost their clout in the country. There was a time when church leaders were revered and respected, I think of.
And you don't see that anymore?
Some, I see that among some, but I'm talking generally speaking in the country. I'm asking now whether or not the voice of the leaders of churches, whether those voices have been displaced by the politician who have sway now over how people think and how they behave.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
You know, I always use the example of Bishop Alvin S. Morse of the Church of God of Prophecy, who was a powerful leader. There were others in the Baptist Church. Cooper,
would you have? Do you want him to have stayed longer, or would you want his church to remain where it was?
No, we're talking about in terms of his clout and making things happen in the community.
For that time, he was good. If he would come back now, you'd find out that the people are different. And so the pastor must be different now to match what is here.
This is a new era.
It's a new era, and not only that, you got new people. We now talk about marketplace ministry. Marketplace ministry is the ability to enable persons, no matter where you are, to let that light shine, so that you have apostles who are not in the pulpit, but where they are. Like you are an apostle.
I am an apostle.
Because you are a leader in this thing, and your faith drives you. Everybody who listens to you know that man isn't talking anything but Bible. Everything you say, you could put a scripture to. Whether you could, we can. Otherwise, they'll call you and they'll pull you over the coal. So you see what I'm talking about? So you are not a pastor as such, but you're doing a pastor's work. And that's what God is doing. That's where the church is being shifted to now. It's the marketplace. So we have, you're here. We got some others in other areas doing medical work. You walk in some doctor's office and they won't touch you until they pray. And they believe in miracles like I do. That's a new phenomenon. And that's what's happening. That's the church right on.
The church working in the community.
Yeah, the church is working, you see.
And people who are in Parliament are supposed to be...
Do you know how many preachers in Parliament now? I think the last time we counted there was 8 or 9 preachers. And when I say preachers, I'm not talking those who help around the altar. I'm talking those who are preaching the gospel. 8 preachers in our Bahamas Parliament. Tell me that isn't God, and tell me what could you put from that? You know, I would prefer that than to have none at all, and just those who go to church. You see, so what you going to do about that? You see the power of the church? The church is so powerful, it's now moved from the building itself. It is every building, you know, and you know as well as I know that there's some powerful men in Parliament who are not only Protestant, or let me say it this way, there are powerful men in Parliament who are both Protestant and Catholic. When I say powerful, I mean powerful in the sense of the word. Mm-hmm. And I can name a couple, you know. Mm-hmm. These are preachers, you see. That's the church. And so we must not diminish the church by thinking you got to wear one of these to be a part.
You have to also appreciate, though, that even though we've seen the effectiveness of church ministry throughout the society, we do have social deterioration, Bishop Davis, in the community where you minister throughout our country. And there is a view that we are becoming more secular in the Bahamas than we've ever been. There's growing secularism in the society.
Yes.
She said yes. Go ahead, you come.
No, I just have to say yes.
Yeah, you're going to have that. But look from where we've come. You know, just look at the distance we have come. Yes, there's secularism, and who say that secularism is evil?
Well, it's not necessarily evil, but it is not in conformity with Christian principles.
Some part of them, some part. But there's some, again, you have to describe what, when you say secularism, what you mean. Because there are some, you got to understand that we're still evolving. We're still learning. There's some things that we believe when I was a kid that we no longer believe. When I was a kid, we did not believe in divorce and remarriage.
Do we believe in it now?
Do we believe in it now? If my daughter is married to a crazy man who threatened her life with a gun, and he is mean to her, like you were talking the day, what am I going to tell her? I'm going to go get her myself and take her out of that. I'd rather her be at peace than to be in a situation in hell. The church has to come to that point.
So this vow, and it's a good time to talk about it, since you are celebrating your 51st wedding anniversary. The vow of being together for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health until death. That vow no longer applies? It does in your case, I'm sure.
It still applies to me. It still applies to me because I intend to be with him until death.
Yes.
But I guess every situation differs. Because like he said, if somebody is mistreating you, hurting you,
if you're being abused.
If you're being abused, I don't know whether the Lord expects you to stay into that. I don't know.
What you mean you don't know whether the Lord expects you to stay into that?
Well, what do you say, Bishop?
The Lord wouldn't want you to be in that. The Lord, you have the power in your mouth to change that. So if you are in a situation and it's ugly and it's not God's will, change it, speak it, and it'll change. You see, because we have power. He has not called us as weaklings. We have power in our mouth. Actually, we are the church. The church has power.
And you've
got to use the power.
And some people are just unequally yoked.
You got it. You got it. Be not unequally yoked. That's a big one there.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
But right, So you can't, I was only saying that there are things we once believed, now we have to mitigate it. We've got to look at it in a different light. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, let's take another break here. We're on the platform, and we're happy to be speaking with Bishop Ross Davis and his lovely wife, this is Angela Davis. We'll come right back.